So today we have with us Ben Cuncarr and Adrian Wilkinson from AVENSURE HR. Now, AVENSURE is a HR service and product that's designed for small businesses. And if you don't know, there were some massive changes to HR in 2020, but they sort of went a bit under the radar because obviously we had this little thing called COVID. But those changes mean that if you haven't updated your policies since then, the chances are you're probably pretty much out of date in terms of your policies and procedures. And we also delve into the fact that if you're an employer and you don't have any policies or procedures or anything in place, you're just opening yourselves up to risk that you really don't need. I've been there and done it. We're our first few members of staff. I don't put this as a bit of an education of the way to do it, but our first few members of staff, we just went, it'll be fine. We don't need that. And then ultimately, at some point, it all went wrong, and we ended up with a situation where there was a disagreement, but we lacked a degree of policies and procedures to back ourselves up in terms of what we were going to be able to do to rectify the situation. And it was just to be able to move forward, whether that was moving forward with this person or without that person. So really delve in today and just get under the fact of HR is not a reactionary service. Ben highlights this within the interview as well, but it shouldn't be a reactionary service. It should be something that you build in to your business every day to reduce the risk profile of your business so you don't end up exposed unnecessarily. So enjoy this interview with Ben and Adrian. Previously on the Leaky Bucket podcast.
Well, you need the knowledge. I think that's the biggest thing. We're all born ignorant. We all have pieces, right? You know a lot of stuff, but it's always what you don't know that can hurt you the most. And we're only as strong as our weakest link. But if you don't know that thing, it can break you.
Hi there, and welcome to the Leaky Bucket podcast. I'm your host, Ian Morgan, and this is the Financial Performance Podcast for entrepreneurs looking to get a better understanding of their numbers, to plug the leaks in their business, and to move from surviving to thriving. Hi, Brian. Welcome to the show. So today, guys, we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to have a look at one of the key major breakthroughs in most business areas where business now really starts to get serious. And that's when you start to take on your first team members, people that ultimately you're responsible for making sure that they can pay their mortgage and that they can survive. And all of this is going to be focused around HR. So Adrian, Ben, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us.
Hi, Ian. Thank you. Yeah.
So first of all, guys, just give a little bit of flavor. How did you guys end up in the field of HR?
So for me, I had a business. I did recruitment. And as we all do, we're chasing money. We're trying to get new leads in, dealing with businesses every single day. And I kind of took my eye off issues that I didn't realize were issues. It was just constant sort of challenges and niggles in the background, which led to the business going under because it was thousands of pounds worth of costs from staff, whether that be issues that they were leaving and redundancies, all that kind of stuff because of COVID. And it led me to kind of work a little bit more in HR, understanding employment law a little bit more, and put me to AVENSURE's direction of helping other businesses that essentially are taking their eye off the ball when it comes to the marginal gains, the little differences here and there on the everyday runnings of the HR side of things.
Yeah, for myself, I owned a music business for 12 years. Coming out the back of that, for me, back then, I'm in my 50s now, 51, so getting a bit older. Back then, CD was the thing when I started out, and as we progressed, CD became nothing. And the MP3 world of sharing, etc., there just became no money in music, so I left it to return to the workforce. Sales was always a strong part of what I did. So I ended up in a very big HR consultancy in the sales team. I kind of fell into the role, learned a lot, spent a lot of time educating myself around employment law, around health and safety. And 9 years on, here I am inside AVENSURE. I've been an integral member of the team here for 6 years now.
Brilliant. So, guys, give us a bit of a flavour of AVENSURE. What does AVENSURE really do? How's AVENSURE different from other HR advisors within the industry?
Yeah, so the biggest thing for me with the difference is it's very personal. So we deal with business owners on the day-to-days, and we're not scared to ask the challenging questions and call businesses out if you wish. Because a lot of business owners, you'll specialize in a certain industry, whether that be care, recruitment, whatever it may be, and you understand the industry incredibly well. But a lot of the time, you're too, not naive, but you're too scared. And other consultancy firms are too scared to ask them questions of, should you be doing this? Have you looked at this? Is that the best way for your business? So we'll sort out the HR dealings in a commercial way. We're not a risk averse, but we're very much, let's get the best commercial angle for the business. If this is going to cost you thousands to do this, why are we doing it? If we can save you money on X, Y, and Z, let's put this in place. Why haven't we put this in place? And we very much will spend a little bit more time with business owners to understand where the marginal gains are, where you've got them little 1% of this person's got taken every Monday off because they've been out at the weekend. Let's deal with that issue. Instead of going for that next business, sort your bottom line out. Get that bottom 10% of your business up a little bit. And that's where you'll start making money and you'll save yourself thousands. So I think that's where we differ a lot from the competition. What do you say?
Personally, I think it's client engagement. So as I say, I've worked in other employment law firms. I know a lot about the competition, different companies out there. A lot of them and a lot of the people that I speak to that have already engaged with other companies, I find there's no client engagement. So very often it's just a case of you're left to it, and if you've got an issue, give us a call, sort of thing. And we try to be a little more proactive in what we do. We have webinars for clients. We keep them updated on legal changes. They constantly, some maybe get annoyed by email updates all the time about what's happening in the world of HR, employment law, health and safety. We have client webinars where they can learn different aspects, or their team members or staff can learn different aspects of HR, whether that be a particular issue or a current topic that's very big in HR. So that for me is the big difference, as well as that personal touch of having personal advisors, people that work with you. We catch up from time to time with our clients and phone them and ask them how the service is going. We really do have that personal touch, which is a big difference, I think.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about people's first introduction to HR. So from my sort of experiences from various business owners over the years, I think most people, when they probably make that first recruitment, usually is a friend or a family member or a friend of a friend. And it feels a very sort of loose type arrangement. You go, but they're a friend or their family, like nothing will ever go wrong. And ultimately, probably in most cases,
they're the worst ones.
They are the worst, to be fair. Yeah, that's you don't mind falling out with you when you're a friend.
And I think that's the thing, isn't it? I think people know and go, actually, you would never, like, if you have a disagreement with family, you'd never cut family off.
No.
And so therefore you start putting up with little things. You go, I'm not quite happy with that, and you put up with it, and then you put up with some more, and then you put up with some more, and then before you know it, you're almost at the point of going, I need to fire them, but I can't fire my friend or I can't fire my family, and you end up stuck in this position where you're not happy and you're probably not getting productivity and results. Is that the majority of people's routes into then sort of ended up speaking to yourselves? They go, hang on, we've tried to do this all very loose and friendly, and now all of a sudden they go, hang on, we need to get back some control for ourselves.
Yeah, so we essentially, the majority of business will come from people having an issue and not realizing that it was an issue before, and like you said, putting up for it for months and months and months, even years sometimes. And a lot of the times, especially the ones that they've employed a friend or a family member, it takes employing other staff to realize actually them turning up 20 minutes late every day or having an extended lunch every day is affecting Peter and John and Jess because they all want an extended lunch. And that's when it essentially starts kicking in. But what we try, and that's why we're trying to do and be a little bit more proactive, is because if we can put the HR boundaries and the expectations in place prior to them issues, that family member doesn't take advantage. That friend doesn't take advantage, because essentially AVENSURE are the people dealing with it. It's not me, Mr. Business Owner. So I'm not personally attacking my friend. It's AVENSURE saying that we have to do this, or saying that this is the measures that we're going down. So it just gives not a way out, but it gives owners a way out if they are employing friends and family to say, do you know what, you've got the same expectations as everyone else.
I think I was going to say, I think the challenge is, I think everybody knows somebody who's got a horror story of employing somebody, and yet they don't think that will ever happen to them.
Oh, it's never going to happen to them.
No.
And that's the biggest worry about HRs. No one needs HR until they're ready to sack someone or someone's taken them to court. And unfortunately, at that point, you're spending tens of thousands of pounds. And that's when, like you say, them businesses, where small businesses, they go bust. They're non-existent anymore because they can't afford to be spending tens, 20, because when you go into court, it's tens of thousands. It's not just hundreds, it's thousands.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter how, innocent a business owner you are. It could be somebody who's been, really bad towards the business. They've stolen from the business. They've, done, major problems within the business. But if you haven't followed the right process, you can still lose a tribunal. Because you may just the old one for me is like when I was younger, maybe, and people older than me, was just to sling people out on their ear. They weren't up to the job, get them out, same day. But you can't do that. You've got to be following the right due process, and that's very, very important for a business, whether that be a family member, a friend, or anybody else that's employed by you. So you have to make sure when you make those decisions or you change things within a business that you're on the right footing, you've got the right policies, the right procedures, the right processes in place to be able to do that. And that's where, let's be fair, you're an accountant, Ian. If I want to know about numbers, I come and see you to talk to you about numbers, but if they want to know about employment law, come and talk to the experts. That's the thing.
Yeah, I think it's that age-old thing, though, isn't it? There's always somebody who's prepared to go in, it'll be fine for me, I'll just give it a go, and it'll be fine. It can't go that wrong.
Yeah.
And I think it shocked me once. I think it was actually at one of either your webinars or one of your talks. And I'm probably going to go and get the number wrong here, but I'll have a go. And I think it was something, there's like 130 laws that protect the employee.
Yep,
very much. Yeah.
But there are zero that the employee.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It's crazy.
And ultimately, I think if you're that employer and you're just thinking, but I'll be fine because the law's fair and it balances both sides. Ultimately, no, everything's angled towards the employee.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
So what are you doing to be able to protect yourself in terms of these are the standards that we expect? Obviously, they can't breach, all the statutory requirements and so on, but these are the standards that we expect for somebody to turn up and do a good job for us. And if you're not setting those standards, you're leaving yourself liable to somebody not meeting these, I suppose, verbal standards that maybe you've sort of talked about but haven't been documented. And if they don't meet them, as long as they've met the statutory requirements, almost tough.
Yeah, exactly. And I genuinely, and I say it to a lot of business owners, I try and bring it down. Like, running a business, it's like having a family, it's like having kids. If you don't set boundaries and you don't set expectations with the kids, they'll do whatever, they'll run riot. Whereas if you genuinely went, if you're good today and you do this and do it, you can have an ice cream at the end of the day, whatever it may be, they'll do it because they know the outcome. And if you'd have left them, they would not have done anything you said. So them 130 employee rights that they get balance out with the handbook. If you put policies in place, that's where an owner will take the power back. If you don't have that handbook and it's not suiting the requirements of the business, all power's in the staff's favours. And with employment law, it's the reverse course of justice. So it's guilty until proven innocent. It's not innocent until proven guilty. It's the opposite, where you've got to prove your innocence
reverse burden of proof.
Yeah. So it works in the employee's favour. If you've not got that in place, you can't prove that you're innocent.
And where do you see it going in the future? Do you see there just being more and more rights towards an employee and in their favour?
There's potentially. I mean, there's going to be some changes in this country coming up at the end of this year, and that will be the start, I guess, when we finally divorce out of Brexit and European law no longer applies. So many of our employment laws at the moment are based on European law and European legislation. So they're governmental. They're enforced upon the British government from Europe, if you like. What we're allowed to do through Brexit is now look at employment law from an individual basis or an individual member state or individual state, if you like, and not necessarily make our own laws, but make our own interpretation, because they'll probably keep a lot of it very similar, but there may be different interpretations of things. Working time regulations is a big one where they want to be less, should we say, stuffy about working time regulations, where the permissible opt-out periods and those kind of things are not going to be enforced.
And I think with the way that the world's gone, employment law, it just becomes a lot trickier for business owners, because since COVID, we've got working from home, working remotely, you've got flexi working requests that are coming in to the dozen, like things that you wouldn't have dealt with post 2 years ago. You've now got to adapt and create your own sort of policies to suit the business, because as you adjust, people before this didn't think you could work from home, and the productivity of staff, you don't get the same productivity from home, is what the old time working was. But now it's about putting policies in place so you can get that same productivity from home. So it's not just about law, it's about adjusting to fit the business efficiency and productivity. And that's where you'll find a lot of change coming in now. It's making sure that policies start to suit the business and making the policies work for you.
We were talking from a health and safety perspective. There's a bit of a claims mount in there that's probably going to be the next PPI, or, I don't know if you've ever had them calls where somebody calls you up and says you had an accident, didn't you? And you've not, but they fish to try and find out of an accident. So the latest one we think is going to be a big thing is
did you work at home?
Did you work at home in the pandemic? And were you advised of DSC training of how to sit, what equipment you had at home? Have you ever had any back pain? Sort of thing.
You have had back pain.
You have had back pain, haven't you? So we think that's probably something around the corner. But for the future, businesses need to look at that. Are they advising people on how to work at home, what sort of equipment they should use, how they're sat at home, have they got the right equipment? Is there any danger to them? So it's a bit like treating every home as an extension of your office, if you like, or your business.
So actually, realistically, if you've been that business that maybe all of your HR and health and safety, it was all fantastic pre-COVID, and then you've just reacted because you just had to, because you needed to survive, that actually you could even be in a case now where your policies and procedures and everything you're doing that was all okay pre-COVID and is still perfectly legal now, because you've changed how you're operating and people are working from home or hybrid or whatever, that actually those policies and procedures are now outdated.
They're void, basically. So, because you need to, this is the thing about risk assessments, you always advise people to look at how you do risk assessments and update your policies. You need to be doing that on an ongoing basis. The amount of people we come across where they feel they've got everything in place and they've been going 20 years and never had a problem with any member of staff, contracts are fine, they were done by a lawyer all these years ago. The amount of people we speak to, and they're under that assumption, but as things change constantly and move forward, there's a tribunal or many tribunals every day, and that can lead to a change in law. And like hybrid working, you've got to assess your policies, your procedures on an ongoing basis. And this is one thing that AVENSURE does for a business, is keep you up to date. Because I'm sure most business owners, you yourself, Ian, do you sit looking at the papers to look at what tribunals have been going on a day-to-day basis? It doesn't happen. You're too busy doing your thing, and that's great. But what we are able to do is ensure that you're always in the right place, you're always doing the right thing.
Brilliant. And how you guys, I think you've got new service, new products and things that you're now launching and adapting. Is that towards and leading towards this ever changing, I suppose, HR, like you say, post Brexit, post COVID?
Yeah.
How is that and what does it look like?
Yeah, so it's like our new online systems. We've been developing that for 3 years.
Ben's wearing a good advert for it.
Nice little people crowd here.
Sure people. Yeah.
So we've been developing that with the help of clients and prospects to understand how their businesses were going. So a lot of businesses are going very much remote. So they needed opportunity to use apps so that people can log into holiday systems, absence systems that weren't in the office. So we looked into that side of things. Tasks can be set for like HR or health and safety online as well. So that if the business owner, you could be in Barbados sipping cocktails, and you can set tasks for your staff to manage the HR for a return to works, whatever it may be, you can set it so it's done and it's checked off, it's signed, dated, so that all onus and everything that you need to do as a business owner is done, and your required kind of law is all adhered to. And if any sort of anyone's slacking, it's monitored, it's time and date stamped. You know someone's not done their tasks because it's stated they're still open. You can see the people that are working, they're completed.
You see when somebody's in work. So let's say one of the things about monitoring homework is how do you monitor the fact that somebody is in work today, etc. The online system tells you, somebody's in work, they're not called in sick, they're in work, they're working, they're available. And you can, as a team manager or as a business owner within a business, you can see where every team member is. Are they in work? Are they on holiday? Are they sick? And you can monitor that on an ongoing basis within the system as well, which is
And like a lot more people are working remotely, so like it's got an expenses tab, so you can migrate that with your payroll, so you can understand whether people are traveling to clients or whether it's to an office or whatever it may be. It's logged. They can put that in with your policy so that you know how much you're paying per mile or whatever it may be, claiming your expenses back. So it just makes it easier. So that time that you would have spent going through someone's expense forms and filling in, you're saving it. So you can concentrate on another department of your business. And that's what it is. It's time is money in business. And if you spend too much time on one thing, you're missing the next. And that's what we're trying to do, is we're trying to take away the time element of running HR, health and safety. You can put that a little bit more onus on the staff because it's very self-explanatory of what they're doing. It's all logged, it's all time and date stamped, everything can be docu-signed online so that you haven't got them worries of physically giving things out. So you can concentrate on everything else. So then, like I say, it's them marginal gains, that percent here or there that's going to make sure that 10 grand that business owner's earning goes to 12 grand, goes to 13 grand. Or whatever it may be. The staff
with that increased productivity, isn't it? Like a lot of time back for a business owner, or indeed a team manager. So really good for time management, keeping records, rotoring, holidays, sickness. Just really excellent features on there. It's been a 2-year development, hasn't it? So we worked through COVID, myself and Ben. There were 5 of us in the office, and then the only other people in the office at the time were a team of developers for 2 years who were developing the system individually. So we've got our own in-house software developers.
How's sort of the HR world looking post-COVID? Is it looking more challenging and difficult? Is it much sort of the same?
Do you know what? I think the biggest thing, so in COVID, there was a lot of HR consultancies or people that set up, it's ambulance chasers. Like, you're going to have to sack people. You've got to make people redundant. I can help you. And post-COVID, because we had good work plan in 2020. We had COVID. There's not a massive change. Yes, you've got the new EU laws, but there's nothing screaming to people. So people don't see it as a big kind of pressing matter. But realistically, these are the points where HR is affected most, because you have to start adjusting with the world. and you have to start claiming back them past 3 years that you've lost and dealing with the issues that you've not been able to keep up to date with. But you'll find a lot of more people are going to the online, a lot of more people are going remote. So these little ambulance chase firms that have just set up, the chances are they don't understand how the world has worked for the past however many years. The credit crunch in the financial crisis in 2009, we had to adapt massively after that. Again, it was the same with COVID, and it'll probably be the same a couple of years down the line when we do something else, whether Brexit hits again or some government change, whatever it may be. It'll be the same. It hits hard. You have to adapt. So you'll have a couple of year grace period now where you've just got to adapt policies to suit your business now before and plan for every eventuality. So then when COVID comes, this time we had layoff clauses in place for all our clients or shortened work policies. So when COVID hit, which we didn't plan for, you could lay people off. It wasn't costing the business thousands. In the eventuality for when furlough came in, it was sorted. The government paid for it. So it's just planning for the unexpected down the line now. And that's what you'll find now. And a lot of people won't see the change, but this is where you'll make the most from HR. Get everything put in place whilst nothing's whacking you.
I think in addition, people need to understand the commercial aspects of HR and employment law and how that can impact your business in terms of if you've got certain policies, procedures in place, you're able to make decisions on a commercial level that are going to impact on the business. So you can get rid of that underperforming employee, which is costing you money. You can, you can lay people off because, and it's been done in manufacturing for many years, where there's not enough orders coming in. So you need to reduce staff. You can do it. You've got that freedom to do it. And even on a temporary basis, you can do it. Basically, you can make them key decisions that commercially affect you as a business to make money in the future. And having those policies is key, because if you make those decisions without the policies, then you're in trouble. That's when we generally will get a call and somebody saying, "We've been taken to tribunal, and can you help?" sort of thing.
Yeah, I think one of my biggest learnings of the support of HR was, I think once you're an employer and you get over probably a handful of people, it's so important to have a defined culture within a business. But having a defined culture without backing that up with policies that expect certain behaviors and certain things to happen doesn't work, because ultimately people don't behave in those certain standards you expect. Actually, without defined processes and policies, you've got no way of ensuring that actually happens. And
it's like somebody breaking a law that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can pluck a law out of the air. You cannot chop your hand off, or whatever. I don't know, something ridiculous like that.
I won't go that far.
I wouldn't go that far either.
And short of creating any policies that don't breach any of the statutory rights, can you create policies that cover anything? You expect people to do certain things or not do certain things?
Yeah, if they're agreeable within the contracts. Yeah, if they read the contracts handbook, they're agreeable.
Yeah, so that's the biggest thing. So your contract is law, like there's your statutories. They're terms that you can't breach. If you're going to want to change a contractual term, you have to have consultation. The handbook, that, like you said, that's policy I use the word manipulate, but just manipulate the business in a direction that you wish. And that's where you get kind of your ethos, your way of working across to the staff. And it's, like you said, as long as it's not too out there or ridiculous, of course you can manipulate policies to suit your requirements, to serve purposes that you wish. And again, it's just getting the legal wording right. And as long as your staff, you have to give them 28 days to understand the policy and before it goes into effect, but you don't have to go through consultation. You just put it in, just hand it out. You've got time to read it and understand it. It's in place. So yeah, so for me, you can adapt policy to suit the culture of the business. And when you're wanting to do so, like I said, with anything like this, when you input into a handbook, you can adapt it constantly as much as you want. You could update once a year, twice a year, every single month. You've got to hand it to the staff, allow them time to read it. It's normally a 28-day process for them to understand it. But as long as it's not a ridiculous movement, you can pretty much put anything in within your policy to suit. So when e-cigarettes and all these vape pens came into place, people had smoking policies in place. However, someone could vape inside because it's not a cigarette. So it was just adapting little things to, hang on, you can't have electronic cigarettes either, because otherwise it can change the atmosphere between people, because some people may not like it, some people may. And it's like banter. The term banter is so loose, and someone's banter is completely different to someone else. So as long as you've got policies in place to make sure that you're protected as a business owner, because I think the biggest thing for us is a third party hearing banter. And that's what you'll find gets people in a lot of trouble. And unless you've got a policy, and if you've got a policy in place to show the seriousness of this and what you're going to do and how you're going to procedurally carry this out and investigate into it, then the chances are people are going to rein it in. Whereas if you don't, well, what
you've got to cover yourself as well in that circumstance. So what Ben's talking about is if I say something to Ben, and we have a laddish culture or whatever together, and I say something that's not offensive to Ben, he pushes it off and calls me something back, you know, and we find it very funny together. But somebody over the other side of the room hears it, and that's offensive to them, they can actually raise a tribunal against you as a business owner. People don't realise that.
Yeah,
you know? So that happens so often now, you know, and it's because they're offended by that happening within the office. And you as a business owner, let's say you don't have a policy to combat that, you are liable for that tribunal. They can take you as a personal, even though you've done the thing. It's the same with health and safety. If you haven't implemented the right training for your staff, and they do something that breaches health and safety, you are legally responsible. So it's not the employee that's in trouble, it's you, because you haven't taken that step to prevent that from happening. That's how the law sees it. Whether that's right or wrong, you know, you can argue as much as you wish, but that's the law and how it works. You know, Johnny was on the front of a forklift truck. His friend was lifting him up and down on the forklift. They were taking selfies online. HSC have seen it come in, investigated. There's been no training handed out on the forklift and what you should and shouldn't do. Business owner is in court facing criminal proceedings. But yeah, it's a simple, very simple, you know, way of breaking it down.
I think social media is a massive one though for business at the minute, and a social media policy is even more important because everything's done on socials. I mean, we didn't have things like TikTok and Instagram and Facebook. Business is all over them now, but so are people and individuals. And again, this is where it's coming up more frequent. I had quite a lot of cases of it, and people may not even think about it. And I never thought about it months ago, but I've had people that have got staff on TikTok not quite presenting the business in a manner in which they'd want. I've got people that have had staff on OnlyFans. That again, it has that sort of culture that certain industries can't accept, and that's where policies and having them robust and suiting the requirements of the business are so important, because a social media policy that you use as an accountant will be completely different to what a school would use. Because if for a school to have a teacher on OnlyFans will have a much more detrimental effect than it would for you as an accountant. For someone being on TikTok and doing certain elements or having their views presented on TikTok, again, will probably have a different effect to you as an accountant than it would as a teacher or a solicitor, whatever it may be. And that's where it has to suit the requirements of the business a little bit more. And that's where you adjust it, and you can put things to change the people's beliefs or what restrict certain elements, because you have to, because it's your brand, it's your image, it's your business at the end of the day, and they're not going to pay your mortgage if your business goes down the pan because something they did online.
Yeah, I think there were a couple of bits I wanted to raise and things on there. Was definitely recognise with the banter element. I work with my wife. There's certainly a professional way that we have to behave at work. That means that we have quite a banter-based relationship. But we also changed that around my mum because she doesn't understand that. We've been together 20 years now. She still doesn't get it and understand it. So around her, we don't do those elements because she views those as arguments. And we adapt that and we create our own little rules to go, let's not create problems that don't need to be problems.
Yeah.
We'll adapt accordingly. And that nicely adapts across, I think. The other was health and safety. And I was thinking about then people working from home. So if you've got somebody working from home and health and safety, are you expected to go and do a home visit?
No.
So that's the biggest thing. And that's why we adapted our system. So you have to present people with the right tools and equipment for them to be safe. And some people actually will get them to take little pictures of their little office environment. So you can do that and you can ask them. But the biggest thing is if you give them the right training and tools and equipment to be safe, it's up to them whether they've actually done it.
You just advise them. That's all you need to do. You need to record that to prove it.
Yeah.
So again, reverse verbal proof. I have done this. Here's the training course I gave to the staff. Here's the certification. Here's my email or WhatsApp document that's announced to them. So advise them on how they should be working at home, what kind of dangers there are. Be careful of leads. Sit in the right posture, sit in the right on the right chair, the right table. Make sure you're doing things correctly to avoid occupational health injury, for instance. Those kind of areas, and that's very, very important. So it's more about advice rather than turn up at the house with a tick sheet going, yes, and your carpet looks a little bit worn there, you might fall over that, so, rather than that. So.
And that's why we did it with the system. So our system, we've done it so that they'll have little learning videos and tutorials, so you can send that across. You've got your risk assessment templates that they can DocuSign. So once they've done it, they've signed to say that they've done it. You as a business owner then are covered. So if they say, my laptop's set up, my head, I'm eye level, my chair's in the right position, it's all ticked off to do it. 6 months down the line, I've got a bad back, I'm off work sick because of the way that I've been sat, because I've been laying on the bed, or my laptop's been balanced on the bath whilst I'm lying down.
You've just avoided the claim.
You've saved yourself thousands because it's time and date stamp that you signed off the risk assessment to say that you understood the DSE, and that's all it is. It's showing that you've done what you can as a business owner, because you can't knock on every employee's house if you've got lots of employees and go driving and check they're doing things every day. It's never going to happen. So just give yourself the right tools so you can present to them how they should be doing it.
It's very much the same in a working environment. As long as you've advised and given the right training and the right guidance, then you're covered. Because if they breach that, then that's their fault, not yours. So it's not you in court, it's them in trouble or disciplinary.
Just don't think staff have common sense.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing. Common sense is not a thing when it comes to health and safety. No one has it. It's just, this is what we expect. This is how it's done. Tick it off. Don't expect them to do it because it's common sense.
Brilliant. So if there's an employer now sort of listening who they've got staff and they've never had any policies, or they've got staff and they've got a handbook and policies, but maybe it's been a number of years since it's been reviewed, what should they be doing at this stage?
At this point, well, we always say we're quite happy to review kind of policies, because the biggest thing you'll see is 2020, there was 48 mandatory changes just made with the good work plan that got brought into place, so if you've not updated since the 6th of April 2020, you're massively outdated. So stuff like this, you need an external eye on it, because you know what it's like. You're constantly looking over the same things. You don't spot certain mistakes. You need an external eye just to kind of look over it and go, actually, this point and this point and this point hasn't been done, or we need to look over this. So by all means, we're happy to do reviews of agreements, of contracts, of handbooks, just point out any areas in which you may be non-compliant, or the biggest thing for me, it doesn't quite suit the requirements of your business anymore because of the way you've adapted after COVID or post-COVID, whatever it may be.
I think for people as well, where they're starting to employ, the best time to get us in is when you start and really implement everything from the word go. And that way, you are unlikely to ever experience any issues relating to employment law, health and safety. And if you do, it's our fault, not yours. So take away that issue straight away get your contracts, get your policies done at the start of the business, set the culture right, and then as you're moving forward in the business, you can ensure and relax that knowing that everything's right, you're not going to face that hurdle at any point in time, and you can focus on growing your business moving forward. So, but people can contact us anytime. We've got an email for our podcast now, which is thinkhr@avensure.com. So if anyone wants to get in touch with myself or Ben, please do.
Yeah, but I think the biggest thing for me, and I think it's the same, like I said with the accountancy, look at it as a cost-saving exercise and not an outlay, because the amount of money that you'll save from putting the correct policies and procedures in place over the years will by far outweigh the outlay that you spend on it. Just like we've used, if you're doing someone's account, the amount of money that people save by using you far outweighs what they'd have paid out to the HMRC for not doing things right in the first place. So I think that's the biggest thing for me with business owners. It's not an expense. I don't know, in the accounting world, maybe.
I used to advise people to get saving,
but it's not an expense. It's a cost saving exercise, because you'll save money in absences, sickness, reducing all them kind of things. The little margin. My biggest thing is marginal gains. Save on them. Your business will have that sustained and steady growth, and not just a up down.
When I was starting out in the music business, I had studios, I had rehearsal and recording studios, and I didn't have the knowledge I have now, shall we say. So I sat up all night, 3 weeks at a time, trying to do my own contracts of employment, my own health and safety policies that I was pulling off the internet and trying to adapt. And, I know I got it wrong very freely. So I very freely accept that. But rather than do that, I could have been maybe making an extra a few £1,000 making key decisions, changing the future of the business, rather than having to focus on that red tape. So once that's done, it's done. And then you can focus on growing your business. That's the key thing, I think.
Yeah, I think while we were off air, me and Ben were having a quick chat beforehand, and just saying the key aspects of a business owner being a better business owner is learning how to bring the right experts in at the right areas at the right times. Sometimes that's internal. So I don't know, if you're naturally not very good at sales, bring somebody in to do sales, to do that, who's naturally good at it and can do that on your behalf. But similarly, if you're only employing 2 or 3 people, you're not going to hire somebody to be your HR department.
Yeah.
So go out and find experts who can do that, and probably do it far quicker. Yes, there's a cost element compared to you doing it in the short term, but in the long term, protection against something going wrong, then overall there's a cost saving there. You just might not never technically see it, because the things now won't go wrong.
Yeah, exactly. Like you said, with anything like this, if you could do it yourself, why would we employ people? And as business owners, because we're so emotive, because we've built this business, you don't want anything to go wrong. I think we sometimes fall short of over kind of committing, and I can do this and I can do this. And so many business owners wear 24 hats, and can you really do any of them properly?
Yeah.
And I think that's the issue, is concentrate on what you're good at. Sometimes it's more cost effective, it's cost effective to get someone that specializes in that to do it. If it's more cost effective to you to employ someone, then do it, but weigh it up. 40,000 to employ someone, £200 a month to outsource it. And again, it's probably the same in, like I said, with the accountants. Employ someone, 40, 50 grand, outsource it, £200 a month, whatever it may be. And I think that's where decisional making processes are needed. Delegate your tasks, concentrate on what you know. Be the expert in what you're the expert in.
Yep.
Yeah, but
Brilliant.
you don't get your hair cut off somebody that doesn't know what they're doing. I think I do. So.
Yeah. Adrian, you nicely linked earlier about you had the podcast and how people can reach out to you. Do you want to just let us know again, how can people find out more about you guys? Where can they find you?
Well, you find us on YouTube at Thinking HR, which is our YouTube channel. So we have the podcast every few weeks where we cover a lot about employment law issues, how advise businesses really through the podcast by talking about different topics. We have a great one at the moment we're doing on, it's a 2-part podcast, which is out again on Friday, which we're talking about discrimination at the moment. So we're going through some tribunals, looking at the tribunals from a point of view of an expert pair of eyes, and talking about what you could have done to avoid it. And by explaining that, it kind of lets people see that the mistakes that can be made and how you can rectify them before they happen. That's the idea. I'm sure the people that went through those tribunals and lost money would have appreciated that at an early stage. So certainly that's the idea. They can reach out to us though at thinkhr@avensure.com, where they can get advice from us if they wish. If they've got any questions, they're a bit worried about anything, or they would just like to have a look at getting the right things in place for their business moving forward. We can arrange for one of our consultants to come out and see them as well, have a sit down with them, a coffee, and just explain things really, and go through private discussion.
Yep, fantastic. Any final thoughts or anything from you guys? Anything that we've not covered that's really hot topic or anything at the moment?
To be fair, I think we've covered most areas. I just think for me, my biggest thing will be for people to stop looking at HR as a reactive thing and I only need it when I've got issues. Be proactive, and with anything in life, proactive will always be better than reactive. Proactive will always cost you less and it'll always be safer. So be proactive, whether you've got issues now or you don't, now's the time to do it. Prepare for the future and do it that way.
And I think if you're not sure, have it, make
Ask.
sure.
Yeah,
that's my biggest thing. Make an informed decision. If you don't know whether it's for you, check. Have a look into it. Is the cost going to be too much? Well, you don't know. I could be £20,000. I could be £100. You don't know until you ask. Inquire. Make an informed decision. Will this work for you? Actually, yeah, it does. But do you know what? Not quite yet.
Yep. Brilliant. Thanks so much, guys, for giving up your time and coming on. And I think it's been some great learning points for many business owners. So yeah, thank you again.
Well,
Pleasure.
thank you for having us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Leaky Bucket podcast. I'd love it if you could help spread the message by clicking subscribe and leaving a review. Also, please do reach out to me on LinkedIn and let me know your thoughts on this episode. You can also find more info and links in the show notes below. See you next time. Coming next week on the Leaky Bucket podcast. I felt amazing in terms of everybody wanted my support and my advice and my guidance, but I also felt overwhelmed and sort of going, why won't people leave me alone?